Hello, and welcome to Crescent podcast, where we discuss all things business, parenting, juggling the two with a splash of neurodivergence here and there. I am your host, Lucy Jessie, and I run Crescent Digital Marketing, where I work with neurodivergent-led businesses to create authentic and accessible online content. A big shout out to our fabulous sponsor, Purple Frog Signs, who are based in Gillingham. They can help with any of your professional signage needs, from design right through to printing and delivery. Please give them a follow on socials and visit their website, purplefrogsigns.com. So today is my business's second birthday. Happy birthday, Crescent Digital Marketing. And it's been a whole year since I announced the launch of Crescent Podcast. So I figured it was a good time and could be quite fun to look back over the last year, recap some of the wonderful guests I've had on the podcast, some of the topics we discussed, muse over what I think the podcast could cover in the next year, as well as look at what happened in the business part of Crescent. And I have said this so many times now, but when I started my business back in January 2024, it never even crossed my mind that I would one day be a guest on a podcast, let alone have my own podcast. And I never thought I'd love it as much as I do. It's not a big podcast. I don't have hundreds or thousands of followers, but that's okay. For me, it was all about trying to put something out there to offer support or guidance to other small businesses and help them by featuring them, inviting them on the podcast to join me for an episode, talk about what they do. And over the last year, I've put out 22 episodes, including this one, and 15 of those have featured local businesses. And we've covered topics from networking, branding, and starting a business to life coaching, female entrepreneurship, and imposter syndrome. I can't pick a favourite, please don't ask me to. I think they were all brilliant. And I've been genuinely interested in each guest's journey, and I've learnt something new from every conversation. I think with the shift in my business focus from small local businesses to neurodivergent-led businesses, the podcast content might also shift towards featuring more content about neurodiversity. I think that's quite a natural progression, and it can only be a good thing as far as I'm concerned. I am all about raising awareness of neurodivergence and talking about how mine affects me. So yeah, it definitely seems to be a natural progression. And I tend to think that my neurodivergence and my business kind of go hand in hand. And I'm also finding that a lot of people still have a lot of questions, to the point where I have to explain what neurodivergence actually is and why it's so important to talk about. So still a lot of awareness to raise. Is that the right phrase? And more knowledge to share with people, as well as obviously supporting neurodivergent people. I think the imposter syndrome episode that we did with Claire Hill was fantastic. And I have watched that back myself quite a few times, because Claire's energy and everything is brilliant. And the way she explains things, and I was at an event with her recently, and she just blows my mind. She's just brilliant, and she's on it all the time, and her energy is so infectious. And everyone suffers from imposter syndrome at some point. So it was such an important topic to cover, and I knew she was going to be the best person for that. So that was a really good episode. One other episode that comes to mind was I had the fabulous Hannah Spence on, and we were talking about female entrepreneurship and her journey. And again, she's someone with so much positive energy, and every time I see her, I come away and I'm buzzing, and I'm just full of all the positivity, and I love it. I am here for it. And when we were recording the episode, I don't think I've ever laughed so much. We had so much fun just chatting and recording the podcast. And there must be so many outtakes of just laughter where I just had to cut it out because it was just going on and on. It was a brilliant episode. And then I had some more practical ones. I had Linda from Synergy Networking Events, the networking queen. She was my first guest, actually. Love Linda. She came on talking about how different type of networking events suit different people, and how they specifically structure Synergy in the way they do. That was a really, really good episode. We had Fuzz from Fuzzy Logic on. That was hard to contain that episode down to an hour, I have to say. He is one for going off on so many tangents. You have to kind of rein him back in. But that was, I mean, they're all good episodes. I had Tracy Vince from Serenity Creates. Tracy and I met at a networking event, and she's become such a good friend. Whilst we both do websites, we do it in such a different way, and exploring the world of coding with her just blows my mind. It's a foreign language. You can't change my mind on that. It's just people who do coding are just very gifted. I've had so many guests on. If I haven't named you, you're all amazing anyway, and you know that. I can't go through every single episode. Go back, listen to the episodes. They're great. Check them all out. I only have fabulous people on my podcast, so if you've been featured, you're fabulous. And if you're booked to come on the podcast, you're amazing too. So in terms of the business side of Crescent, 2025 started pretty strong. I had quite a few new projects, and it seemed to be on a really good trajectory. Fortunately, my husband became quite ill in late spring, so I had to scale back a bit to be able to support him and keep home functioning to some degree of normality. But by September, he was back to work more, and it was around this time I actually started thinking about getting a business sponsor for the podcast. But I had no idea how to go about that. Do I put a shout out on socials? Do I approach people directly? I knew it had to be the right business. I didn't just want anyone sponsoring it. They had to have a good business ethos, interest in local businesses, and just be someone who actually listens to the podcast as well. Like, I don't want just any person supporting it. And I remembered a conversation I'd had online with a lovely connection on LinkedIn, but we'd never met in person. I think it was an online networking event. And we connected, and she had messaged me a couple of months previously, totally out of the blue, to say how much she enjoyed listening to the podcast and the topics I covered. And we chatted, sent messages back and forth. And then she signed one of her messages with "Your number one fan." And I was just like, oh, my heart just, I loved that. It was amazing. I did a happy little dance around my office. It was so special, and I was so grateful. And so she became the obvious choice for me to approach. And it turned out she was the only person that I needed to approach, because she immediately said yes. And Purple Frog Signs have been sponsoring the podcast since October, and I'm incredibly grateful for their continued support. Louise and Chris are just fabulous. So thank you very much, guys. At the end of September, I found out that one of my main clients was cancelling their contract. It sucked, to be honest, quite a bit. I was pretty gutted, but everyone's cutting back. And for them, that was just one thing that they had to cut back on. So unfortunately, it was one of those things. But it did cause me to have a major wobble of, what am I doing? Should I be running a business? Who do I think I am? But fortunately, I have an amazing support system around me, encouraging me and trying to reassure me that I do know what I'm doing. So after speaking to some people, and I attended a couple of events, I realised I do know what I'm doing. I am good at what I do. And it was during this time I was looking through my client list, and I realised I was actually already working with and supporting quite a few neurodivergent clients. And I realised that's where I should focus my energy on, which led to kind of the change in focus, which I mentioned earlier. And then with this change in focus and me looking at how I want to work with and support neurodivergent clients and neurodivergent-led businesses, I made a really big, terrifying decision for me. In November, I decided to join the Rookie CEOs Speaker School that they're running in collaboration with the fabulous Beth Turner of Conversations Unlimited. I love Beth. She's amazing. If you haven't met her or heard of her, where have you been? Get yourself to a Rookie event, because she's usually there. She's brilliant, and she's going to be a guest on the podcast once I've delivered my talk for Speaker School. So let me explain what that is. So Speaker School is delivered in 2 sessions. So we had the first session, there were 7 of us, our little cohort, and Beth talked us through various stages that you need to go through when preparing for a talk, making your slides, everything you need to do, what you're going to talk about, thinking about your target audience, all of that. And then we went away for 4 weeks and planned and prepped and created the slideshow and ideally practiced, although I only rehearsed once. So then when you go to the second session, you deliver your talk to the rest of your cohort and they give you feedback. And it's recorded, so you can watch it back. And then you can learn where you need to improve on that, so that then you can go on and deliver that talk at a networking event or whatever event you want. So I did that. I did both sessions. I loved it. Our cohort was amazing. We all bounced off each other really well. And I haven't watched my video back yet. I might have done by the time this goes live, actually. But I haven't done as yet because I want to give it the full attention it needs. I've already had some feedback and I feel like I've embraced that. I'm really trying to. Things about talking slowly, which I've just realised I've probably not done on this episode. Sorry, Bear. So yes, I will be doing a talk sometime this year. The first one will be at the Rookie CEO. I'm not sure on the date yet, but don't you worry. I will be sharing that information left, right and centre so I can make sure that as many people come and support me as possible. I'm quite nervous about it, but I'm also really excited. Since doing the first session, I've come up with quite a few other ideas for talks I could do. And I'm feeling really optimistic about the future. And then it led me on to thinking that maybe I could do workshops with people and businesses. And that idea doesn't terrify me as much as it used to, which I guess is a positive thing. I'm quite excited. I feel like I've learned a lot this year, mainly about being true to myself and my business, being more confident in what I do. I do know my shit. Sorry for swearing, but I do. And it's also okay not to be everyone's cup of tea. And I think it was a post by the fabulous Hannah Spence of Clockflower Solutions. She shared on socials something about, I am not everyone's cup of tea, I'm champagne. And I just loved that. I fully embraced that. I am here for that. And the other phrase that really stuck with me that I've heard in the last few months, and I'm embracing this to my core in my personal life, is if I'm too much, go and find less. I've been told that I'm too loud. Yes, I know, me. Too dramatic or over dramatic. Things like that. Too quiet. Too whatever. If I'm too much, go and find less. Because you're not my people. Which is fine. And that's okay. And I'm all for being true to yourself. So, yes. I just love those two little phrases. I think they're amazing. So as we start 2026, I'm fully embracing this year as being the year that Crescent goes big. I am going to be speaking at events. I am going to run a workshop, hopefully several, but we'll see how it goes. And I'm going to fully embrace me and Crescent and all the wonderful help that we can bring to people just like me who may need some help with their digital marketing or whatever. So that's my little roundup from the last year. Have a fantastic day, everyone. Thank you again to Purple Frog Science for sponsoring this podcast and being amazing. Here's to 2026, guys.